Greg, I went through the years where billboards were popping up everywhere because the council massaged how a billboard can go in, and these antennas are becoming a wealth for someone to place on their property. And I know we put some on some of our parks, trying to make them look like trees, but I think what Mr. Juarez is doing, he's making it more customer friendly. But if they're going to upgrade the box, and they're in a 10 by 10, and they're going to put a 20 by 30 or a 40 by 40, and it's next to a residential neighborhood or next to a school, then I just don't want to take full control away from the Planning Commission, because they can at least stop it if it looks like it's going away. We just spent a lot of money on a billboard issue because someone signed something, and whatever it was, and that was staff. So I don't want to lose. That's the Planning Commission is between staff and the City Council. So nothing against, but that's our neutral party. That's like our jury, and they're the ones watching. I don't want to take that away from them. I would rather see that maybe the application fee, instead of, what is it, $3,000?
It's approximately $3,000.
All right, we cut it down to $1,000, but let the Planning Commission see it, because I don't want bigger antennas or newer antennas, like Mr. Vargas said. All of a sudden, we went from a 30-foot antenna, and they're putting in a 60-foot antenna, and someone, just hypothetically saying, can just over the counter, which we've had that in the past, over the counter permits given, or over the counter lot splits, and it ended up costing the city $1 million. So I just don't want to take that center, away from the city. So when we write this ordinance, Danny, let's just maybe lower the fee, but at least let the Planning Commission hear it, and we kind of watch what comes in, because right now there's a lot of money in antennas. If you can get an antenna, the guy that was trying to open one behind the post office in this duplex a couple years back, I don't know if you guys remember that, the street right, Eucalyptus, came to the City Council, was going to put an antenna in his backyard of his duplex. I mean, but thank God the Planning Commission, said, hey, wait a minute. So that's my only caution of years of being up here and seeing how things are finagled in.
Through the chair. Okay, so I mean, there's no doubt that we need, that some of the cell phone companies need to upgrade. I mean, I have AT&T. Well, I shouldn't have said anything, but some of us, we have problems with our cell phones and the communication throughout the city. And I have an unnamed cell phone company, and so needless to say, we need those upgrades. So I think with the mayor, I just want to make sure that I kind of understood what you were suggesting, and it might be a good point that even though it's an upgrade, that it's on a different track than a new application for a site,
Right.
but it'll still go through the Planning Commission. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. That's a good idea.
Through the chair?
Yeah.
Can you, once again, Mr. McLean, just talk about what you have seen in your years as an upgrade for these wireless antennas? I mean, do they go from 20 by 20 to 40 by 40? I thought it was just internal workings of the operation there.
Well, many times that is the case, but sometimes they add an additional cabinet, which is probably no bigger than this podium. And so what we can do is we can craft thresholds and say that as long as you don't add more than one additional cabinet, as long as the antennas aren't going any higher, or as long as the number of antennas are not increasing, or all kinds of things like that. If these are spelled out in the code, and we're only applying this to existing sites that have already been approved, then we should probably seek to find the most streamlined process possible. But new sites, of course, would have to go through the same old procedure that they always do.
I agree.
And anything that exceeded these thresholds, which the City Council through the Planning Commission would have an opportunity to set as rigidly or as loosely as they see fit. I would recommend rather rigid, pursuant to the mayor's comments.
Okay.
I didn't understand your comment.
The thresholds for when things would have to be directed to the Planning Commission.
Right.
So, for example, if the lease area increases by more than, say, 50% or 20% or whatever you think is most appropriate.
What you're talking about, expanding like from 20/20 to 40/40.
Yeah, just like that antenna that's at over here, Eucalyptus Park.
Yeah,
do you see the station that's there?
Yeah, well, there's actually 3 carriers there, so there's 3
Well,
stations.
Okay, there's 3
Yeah.
carriers there in
Yeah.
one spot.
Well, let's see, a new carrier coming onto an existing site would, in my estimation, would not necessarily be the kind of thing that you'd want to approve at staff level. I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that anyway. And then we could take it to the next level, which would be up to the city council to decide if that would be a full-blown process that we have now with the CUP or something a little bit in between the two. So that's the kind of information that I could use to write this ordinance.
Yeah, I just don't want to take the control away from the body that
Yeah.
protects the city, which is our, it's the in-between. So I want to make it so rigid that we don't end up, with a lot more. And then someone sues us saying, well, you're letting him upgrade it over the counter, but now that I want to put an antenna in, you're making me go through the hoops. Yeah, so
We're just streamlining it.
yeah, just streamline
Okay,
it.
so I'll make a motion that we go forward with an ordinance.
Second.
Please vote.
Vote reflects mayor and city council voting yes.
Item E, Mr. Vargas.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Mr. McLean, if you could please step to the center podium. All right, so we're going to touch on the redevelopment agency. We need a general description of the activities as it pertains to Hawthorne. We hear a lot about redevelopment agencies, and everybody's running around saying redevelopment agency funds are being taken away. It sounds bad, but do we really know what it is? So I just want to make sure that the community understands how the redevelopment agency funds impact our community, and that they're well aware, what the gravity and the nature of what's happening up in Sacramento is, and Mr. McLean's going to go through how this benefits our residents and how it benefits the city. So, Mr. McLean, take it away.
It depends on how this computer comes up. If I have to log in as an admin, we may not be able to do this.
Okay,
I don't know.
then we can just. We have a soundtrack over there. That's really cool, Mr. McLean.
I've got, well, somebody said to speak up, so it's just easier to raise.
The soundtrack's good.
Okay, see, the problem is I've got a blank screen up here, so. Yeah, okay. I guess I can use the, where's the delete key on this? Can anybody tell me who the login name is on that? Oh. Do you know the password? Because it may not be on my desktop. How can I see?
Are you touching on Proposition 22, Mr. McLean?
Yeah, but will it show up on?
Well, one of the things I guess I could give you a brief commentary is Proposition 22 is a proposition that the voters voted in this last November. And what that said was that we were, as a community, as residents, we were saying no to Sacramento taking away any of our funds. Money that goes to the city based on taxes that we earn. And you know what? Lay your hands off of our money, because that's the habit that Sacramento is in right now, taking away the city's money. And now it sounds like they want to take away all our money. So that's a very dangerous position to be in. It's definitely going to weaken us and not allow for us to do the good things that we do as a city. Are we ready?
Yes, I'm prepared to bore you. Okay, this is a presentation on the basics of redevelopment in California. Whoops, too far. Okay, just as an introduction, the California Community Redevelopment Act of 1945 is the enabling legislation that allows local governments to create a redevelopment agency. So what is a redevelopment agency? And I should also preface that we're doing this presentation to inform everybody of what is at stake here. Okay, so redevelopment is the process authorized under California law that enables local government entities to revitalize deteriorated and blighted areas in their jurisdiction by spending funds that encourage private sector investment in the community. So let's look at some of the details. The local legislative body must adopt an ordinance declaring the need for a redevelopment agency. Hawthorne did this in 1969. And the city council sits as the redevelopment board. These are some of the activities or some of the things that redevelopment agencies can do. They can sue or be sued. They can make and execute contracts, hire staff, purchase or rent space, equipment, and supplies, utilize services and facilities of the host government, which would be the city, apply for grants, and manage real property. Typical activities include constructing public infrastructure, preparing sites for development, buying and selling properties, even if for private development, improving dilapidated facilities, mitigate environmental impacts, and use tax increment financing. And they can use that increment financing to issue bonds. So let's look at the redevelopment plan briefly. It describes the boundaries of the project area, which I'll get into in just a little bit. It sets the goals and objectives, techniques for how to achieve the objectives, land use controls, financing methods, enforcement mechanisms, the plan duration, because they all have a time limit. They expire after a time. Use of eminent domain, or or not using eminent domain in some cases, and procedures for amending the plan. So the project area establishes the focus of where the redevelopment activities will primarily take place. And based on items such as blight, you try to set your area where it'll do the most good. So let's look at where Hawthorne's project areas are. We have two. One is expired. That's project area number 1. You'll recognize that's where the mall was built. And then all the area that's in blue is project area number 2. This one is still current. So there's two basic tools of redevelopment agencies, tax increment financing and eminent domain, and I'll explain both of those in a little. Tax increment financing. Financing based on tax revenue increases from some base which is established when the project area is created. So here's an example of typical tax revenue over time. This blue area shows how over time, generally with inflation, tax revenue increases. And that tax revenue is divvied up among the city and schools and other special entities such as lighting districts, etc. When you establish a redevelopment agency, you create the base, which if you follow this dashed line all the way to the left side, you'll see that that's the level of tax revenue at the time that the agency was formed. This blue area represents the base plus pass-through and payments, and I'll get to that in a little bit. But the redevelopment agency gets the increment. So over time, as you invest in the area, the tax revenue generated increases, and everything above the base minus the pass-throughs goes to the agency, and that's what's represented in red here. So let's look at tax increment financing a little bit more carefully. The tax increment funds can be spent directly on projects. Tax allocation bonds can be issued to be paid off from future tax increment revenues. In other words, you can spend your future revenue because it's fairly predictable. And loans and grants to businesses for physical improvements can be made. Now, eminent domain. This is the government's right to seize private property for the public use, including the health and safety of the community. The government must pay a fair market value for any property it acquires through this power. So that applies to the redevelopment agencies as well. Why would you use eminent domain? You can use it to assemble larger properties suitable for private development. You can acquire land for public works and infrastructure improvements. Facilitates the elimination of blight. In other words, you can clear out a problem property. Those are just some of the reasons you might want to use eminent domain. Now let's talk about the benefits of redevelopment. This is what's at stake. It encourages private and public partnerships. The elimination of blight, that's the primary original reason for having a redevelopment agency. Pass-through agreements ensure funding to the other taxing agencies. Job creation, infrastructure improvements. Affordable housing is an important component, which we'll get into in a little bit, and improves sales tax revenues. So I'll just focus on a few of these. Redevelopment can eliminate barriers to private investment because it eliminates blight and reduces crime. It also upgrades the infrastructure and can be used for gap financing. So there's a lot of opportunity for private partnership with redevelopment. So let's take a brief moment to look at blight. Blight is an area that is predominantly urbanized and constitutes a serious physical and economic burden to the community, which cannot reasonably be expected to be reversed or alleviated by private enterprise without redevelopment. So physical conditions that lead to blight would be unsafe or unhealthy buildings, inadequate building or lot design, incompatible adjacent uses, irregular lots in size and shape. Economic conditions could be stagnant or depreciated property values, high business vacancy rates, high turnover rates, abandoned buildings, lack of typical neighborhood businesses, high number of adult businesses could be a problem, overcrowding can be a problem, high crime rate. All of those are examples of blight. Pass-through agreements, these are just the agreements that some agencies have with the other taxing entities such as schools, special districts. Older redevelopment agencies are not quite as, or they're a little bit more free to enter or not enter into these agreements. The newer ones are mandated to do so. Job creation, that's something that's the major point of contention with the governor right now. Other benefits, redevelopment activities can lead to increases in sales tax and transient occupancy taxes, which directly benefit the local city general funds. That's a benefit that's often overlooked because a lot of the money that comes in goes to the agency and it goes back out through the agency, but this is money that the agency stimulates that goes to the general fund, which is a very good thing. That's really all I had. That's just the basics of redevelopment so that everybody knows what we're talking about and what's at stake.
Okay, well, that's a great job. Thank you very much, Mr. McLean. But we do have questions, so thank you so much. That was really well. I like the backdrop. I like the information. And there are a couple of pieces of information that I kind of just wanted to go over. For example, as a clarification, it's rhetorically, I guess I'm asking this sort of kind of rhetorically, but so the tax increment, it's we had a certain level of tax at some certain point in time. Yeah. And then the taxes would increase at that point in time a certain amount, and that's what would come into our coffers minus the pass-through.
Right. When you establish your project area, the base is set. And then as you make improvements to the project area, as you invest in the area, the properties are reassessed and the values go up. And the part that's over that base is the increment. That goes to the agency.
I don't know if I'm throwing like a curveball at you, but I mean, let me know if I am. With regards to the Proposition 13, if that goes away, I mean, I don't know if that goes away and everything is all crazy, how is that going to affect the tax increments that we're getting? The redevelopment agency will be subject to whatever the tax increment is with a non-Proposition 13, I guess, taxation.
That is a curveball. I'm not sure. If hypothetically Prop 13 went away, I guess the increment would probably grow very quickly.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't think that's in the works.
Well, I don't know. I guess that's one of those things that I heard from the governor's office, so I don't even know what he wants to do. But can you please discuss the 20% set-aside funds? And I think we allot that to specific uses.
I apologize because I had a slide for that, and
no problem.
I think I deleted it by mistake. 20% of our increment has to be used to acquire or build affordable housing. And every year when we get our allotment of increment from the county, 20% has to be taken and put into a separate account immediately. And that money can only be spent on affordable housing.
So,
and it has to be spent on affordable housing.
So if we lose that money, if we lose the redevelopment funds, then we, as a city, will not be able to help the less fortunate in our city. Is that correct?
If they take that portion too, that's correct.
So that's kind of one of our tools that we use, folks out there. So just to let you know, with regards to what is, I don't know if you can answer this, but what is the status of our 20% set aside? How much money do we have in there? Can we discuss that?
I think so. 80%? I don't have the exact figures right now, but we have about a total of $7 million, which represents the total of the housing set-aside fund and the general 80% money, that the balance of it.
That's like
and that we have about $2 million that we're thinking of because of debt transferring into the general fund. We have to know that it's we have plenty of debt that allows us to do that. As far as the 20% housing set aside, we have to spend it for low cost housing, for the elimination of blight and low cost housing. And the thing is, that's the money that the governor took last year was the $3.1 million. That came out of the 20% housing set aside money. And there's an attempt to come up with projects that would commit that set-aside money that we have as a balance and we will have about probably $4 to $5 million by the end of this fiscal year in housing set-aside money, and that's contingent upon the governor not taking any more money. And I hear that there are plans by him to take it for a second year. So exactly how much he's going to take is still subject to speculation right now. Mr. Juarez.
Yes, let's see. You mentioned about this money that last year's governor took from us to the tune of $3.5 million.
I think it's 3.1, somewhere in there, yes.
Okay. What's the probability that we're going to get that money back?
Zero.
Zero.
Well, I shouldn't say that. I don't mean to be flippant, but from all of the reports that's indicated by that people that are chasing the funds around, that they're not looking to receive any of that money back.
Forever? Or have we lost that forever, or at some point in time in the future?
There's been no commitments made to pay it back, to my knowledge. If it deteriorates to the extent that it is now, then I would assume that they'll keep taking set-aside money.
So do we physically write a check to the state? Is that what we did for the 20% set-aside?
Okay, exactly how that happens, I want to defer to the finance officer. But maybe you can talk about that and correct my figures if I'm wrong on the various funds that are in redevelopment, if you would, Mike.
Okay.
Hi, Mike.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The first thing is that the 3.1 million that you paid last year is gone. You will never see it again. It was an ERAF shift. This year, we got the letter. We have to pay it by May the 10th, I think, and that is another 600 and some thousand. I don't remember the exact number. It was over 600,000, but less than 700,000. And that is, we write a check. Yes, that is correct.
We do write a check.
Or the other way we can do it, which is just moving numbers around, is we don't have them give us all our tax increment for the April payment.
Okay, now that brings up an interesting question. The state flows down RENA numbers to us and says that we have to build low and moderate income housing. Is that correct?
That is
correct. And there's ratios that we have to follow.
Yes.
Okay, what if we just say we're not doing that? Especially if we're supposed to be using the redevelopment money to do that, to build that sort of housing, okay, and they're taking our redevelopment money, why is it then we have to abide by the RENA numbers that are flowed down to us? Why can't we write something to the state and say shelve them until this whole budget thing is done?
Well,
can we do that?
As a practical matter, the housing arm of the state is going to be hard to enforce any lack of RENA number construction if the money has been taken from us. There's no judge in the world is going to say you have an obligation to build housing, but the money's already been taken. But you have to do it anyway. I don't think that could ever happen.
But what can never happen?
That they can take our money to the extent that, and then say we have to use that money that they've taken to build housing. Now there will be money left if they take the 600,000, and it'll currently deplete a lot of the funds that we have in there. It'll cut that $5.5 million or some such figure like that. The projected fund balance and the 20% set aside as of the end of the fiscal year. I think that is a semi-correct number.
Well, we're in a situation where you can't have your cake and eat it too, and that's what they're doing. You know, they want the redevelopment money back, and plus they still want us to do the low and moderate income housing.
To the chair.
Through the chair.
All right, let's flip it. I think you were first. Ladies first.
Thank you. I think for the most part, it's mandatory RENA, low-income housing assistance to the municipalities. So basically, those requirements are mandatory. I do understand that our city is lacking in development of low-income housing. It is also made mention that you use the money or you lose it,
Exactly.
in spite of it being taken today. That's how come it's important that there's a deadline in Sacramento of March 31st to submit all development projects which would acquire the monies that are currently held today in our municipality. So there's no way of saying we're not going to build it because you're going to take it anyway. I think that is probably not the smartest thing to do. I think the process in which is being followed and has been followed for some number of years needs to continue. We can't go back on what we've done in the past, which is basically have not been on a fast track in building the low-income housing, hoping that today we can. But I wanted to ask Greg another question with regards to redevelopment agency monies, which is the job creation aspect. And I know that the monies that redevelopment monies that we currently have also has a job component, from what I understand.
This is outside of my expertise.
Oh, it is?
Sorry.
Okay. I apologize. But if you have been listening to numerous cities, including workforce investment boards, et cetera, they are very vigilant in trying to hold what they currently have, because with these redevelopment monies, it's building blighted communities and bringing up much needed creation of not just buildings, whether it be various buildings for housing, commercial, mixed use, etc. But it also provides a creation of jobs in the communities in which those projects are going to be ultimately built. So very important to keep in mind that it goes hand in hand. When you talk redevelopment agencies within municipalities, it's been made mention over and over again. We are trying our best to keep those monies, because through that we are not able, if you will, to provide much needed help to those communities that ultimately could benefit. So that's just my two cents.
One more comment I'd like to make on that. If they take the redevelopment funds away, they're also, unless they protect the pass-through agreements, they're also eliminating the money that would normally go to school districts,
yes,
the County of Los Angeles on various things, and all of the tax, not all, but majority of the taxing entities that are listed there. So they not only affect us as a community,
right,
but I mean as a city, but they affect school districts and things like that. I didn't mean to interrupt you on that.
No, that's fine, and also public safety.
Yes.
Very important.
Through the chair, I just want to make a clarification, a distinction between RENA numbers and the redevelopment funds that we use. RENA numbers, we're obligated to build the low and allow to have the low and moderate income housing be built, to allow. Okay, so whether we're the ones that use our redevelopment funds to build that housing or not, we're still obligated to. But you know, at the same time, those jobs are still going to be there if we allow. So I just don't want to mix up the redevelopment funds, say taking away our ability to be able to allow for low and moderate income housing to be built. So that's just the distinction I wanted to make. And so essentially what it just seems like it's going to be what is the pass-through money that goes to the schools, to the county. Basically it's going to be inflated, and all the money that goes into our pot goes away. That's all it's going to be. But still, nothing's going to come to the city. So, I mean, that's the tragedy in it. So we, as a city, I think we know that we as a city will be able to have a better handle on the types of projects that we built in the low and moderate income housing areas. So that's where the comfort is for the city, that we know that we're going to be able to regulate and make sure that our tenants are, keeping the place up, et cetera. So that's where our involvement in the redevelopment fund aspect of low and moderate income housing comes into play. So
I'd like to just talk so you can have a more intelligent decision, only in the sense of what the finances are related to Hawthorne. Hawthorne, we filed a statement of indebtedness on October for the last year. The city was owed, the redevelopment agency had debt of $121 million, of which about $45 million was pure bond indebtedness. We had another 10 or 15, about $12 million that was owed for the development agreement that you had when you built the Costco. And then you owed $60 million to the city itself, to the general fund. You're owed $60 million today. Your revenues on the Project 1 are approximately $700,000, of which you have indebtedness to the bonds of $400,000, so you have $300,000 you can pay yourself. For the project area number 2, you have $11 million in revenue, of which $2 million is the pass-throughs that you've just been talking about. You have another $2.5 million that goes to your low-mod housing fund, and then you have about another $3 million in bond indebtedness, so that leaves you about $3 million to either pay back the city or to use for other redevelopment projects right now. That's kind of the status of where you're at.
The history, why our arena numbers were so high is because ours are very high, and the reason is when we first got elected, we had council people going to other cities and saying, we'll take your arena numbers, we'll take your numbers. And they elevated ours in order to build low to moderate housing. I see where our council's going. We need to build new properties. We need to use our redevelopment funds or housing, nothing old. We want to clean up neighborhoods. We talked about Imperial. The best way to do it is build new stuff. Use every dime of our, from CDGB funds, our housing set-aside funds, to go in and clean up neighborhoods by building new properties. And there's a company like Jamboree that does a good job. They actually put children's centers in there. They have tutoring. They have services. Hey, Russell, break down the difference between housing set-aside funds and redevelopment money so everybody understands better the two funds and which funds can be used to assist to build low to moderate housing.
Just the 20% set aside.
Just 20% set aside can be used, so everybody needs to understand that. They can't use that whole redevelopment dollars. They can only use 20%. It's called set aside. So that 20% we can use to build new properties, to clean up neighborhoods, not buy properties that have just been sitting there because it doesn't help us. So we can move forward on that.
Through the chair, can we make the request from our staff to start assembling something on a growing list of what we are going to be using the red development funds? Let's start making an active intent to allocate these monies so that we can go ahead and do stuff.
I can ask the staff, after talking to the city council individually, to find out what the basis, how they want to go ahead with the potential spending of this money. And we'll come up with a plan with some alternatives that come up with parameters that we want to establish and go ahead with. I think, and then it'll be like a workshop process. Though we'll have to go back and forth. I'll have to get input from everybody as to how we want to spend whatever money we have. I should say that I would like to wait till after the March deadline to see how much of it's going to be taken from us.
Right.
And the other thing, I asked Greg to come back, just for your knowledge. Greg, tell him how much the RENA numbers are specifically right now.
I think the mayor hit it right. It's very close to 1,600.
That's a lot.
That's awful.
I mean, but we, regardless, as we heard, we're still obligated to build those, and the monies, because we've been wasting time and sitting on our hands, we need to build or move forward, because then we could tie those dollars up.
Yes.
And that's a way to clean up blighted neighborhoods. That's a way to clean up blighted neighborhoods, is to go in and start from zero, because that'll rehance, and then we can control the way they look and how they're built. So I think that's a good.
I'll take that as direction.
And also
from the
take this
council.
article about cash to fight blight. There's a lot of cities that are going to get in trouble because they're using to pay salaries and a lot of other stuff. And I don't want to end up, pass that over to Russell and to Jim for them to watch those guidelines and check into, because, you know, everyone's talking loud about this, and you don't think the governor's people heard what everyone's planning on doing?
Exactly.
Mayor,
Everybody knows.
Mayor, I have been having conversations with the city manager, encouraging him to start using some of our redevelopment money before they come along and take it from California State, because you know doggone well, the first opportunity, although I do not know what the state law is, can they come and just take our money? I don't know, there must be
There
some-
seems to be
some
an attempt,
protections.
it depends on basically what the city or the assembly and the state senate allow to happen. And I think they're being asked, unfortunately, being asked to vote on bills that they don't really understand the ramifications of it. And if that happens, there can be draconian cuts to what we're going to be getting. There's no question that it can.
Is there no law that protects cities
Well, the law that-
for their
okay.
stealing?
I don't think there's any, I'll yield to the city attorney on that, but I don't think there's any statute on it specifically.
Oh, boy.
But it's going to be what a judge says is the law.
Through the chair.
Well, we better grab it.
I just want to remind the residents here that we voted something in this last November, Proposition 22.
Right.
I mean, we voted something. There is something that's on the books that says, Mr. Governor, state legislators, don't take away our money. We've already voted. This people have spoken. I mean, what more do we really need? I know it's kind of frustrating, but Mr. City Manager, Mr. Attorney, City Attorney, can you just start making that priority list of where our allocations will be so we can get going on this? We've been talking about it for a while, and we need to jump on the ball. So, so I think that's it. Thank you very much, Mr. McLean. Thank you. Very good presentation. Thank you very much for your effort here.
To the chair, I had one other recommendation, but that's okay, Greg. It's not directed at you. In getting the lists that we're talking about, can I also get some history on what we've used redevelopment monies on? I heard Costco. I want to know which Costco.
Okay.
I want an understanding of.
I can be brief in that. I know the project. Not now.
I'd prefer it.
You know what? I'd rather you
Do it now.
say, do it now. So
Okay.
people understand.
All I wanted was a list. If he's going to provide a list,
No, but Angie, I think
He wants it for the public, though.
I wanted for the public to understand which Costco.
Okay. First of all, there's two project areas in the city, the Gateway project and the original mall project that is basically vacant now. But regarding the original mall project, that was started in, I don't know, I think the mall was completed in like 77. But it started in like 72 or something like that, some figure like that. At that time, there was no requirement for set-aside funds, and there was no requirement that regular tax increment funds be negotiated with the county and with the school districts and so forth. And so as a result, we got virtually 80% of the tax increment, 100% of the tax increment that we could use any way we wanted. In addition, that tax increment is also used in other areas of the city that undergoes various types of building permits, increased in assessed valuation, not necessarily handled under DDAs, that they generate funds for it. So we use those funds to acquire the land, to help with the construction, to do a lot of things in the development of that mall. And so what happens on that is, normally speaking, you find out projected tax increments. You come up with a present value based on selling tax increment bonds, and that money usually goes to the acquisition of those properties. And then as the properties be acquired and the construction goes on, then the assessed valuation becomes greater and more tax increment is being generated. So that's project number one, with that was prior to the requirements for set aside and other funds. Now, the Gateway project, and I was familiar with it for many years ago, they tried various things to happen. DDAs were prepared, disposition and development agreements were prepared, and all of these figures, so we acquired a lot of little parcels from the area, and we used tax increment financing. And in the area around the Costco, that entire area, the Gateway project, from around Hendry to Isis, all of that area, plus all the way pretty much to Marine on the south. And we acquired many, many houses. There was bungalows. There was a lot of old houses in the area, a lot of old shops. I'm sorry, not houses, but a lot of, yeah. There was a couple of good places, but the rest of them were going out of business, and so we acquired those lands by taking the money, redevelopment money, projecting the tax increment, selling the bonds, coming up with a present value, paying for the acquisition of the property, and that's how we generated enough to do the project. Then when the project went into fruition, then of course the new appraised valuation went in, and we could pay the bonds off because of the increased valuation that went in. That area was subject to 20% housing set aside and very stringent rules as far as pass-through agreements with other jurisdictions. So I don't mean to be too verbose on this, but that's basically how redevelopment worked in the city of Hawthorne. And, okay, all right, I'm sorry.
I'll get that later. I'll get what I actually wanted later. Thank you.
Just the history, I think she was just looking for. If you can just document it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like a copy of that also.
All right, are we all good on these?
I'll just answer one question. You had asked for a list of what's going to be done with that money. You're going to be voting on that on March 8th. All of that money is going to be used to pay back the city.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Clerk, may we have your consent calendar, please?
Mr. Mayor, I have 5 items on my consent calendar for your approval. Item number 4, approval of the regular city council minutes of February 8th, 2011. Item number 5, approval of the waiver of the full readings of the resolutions and ordinances on tonight's agenda. Item number 6, the city treasurer requests approval of warrants. Item number 7, resolution number 7357. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Hawthorne, California, opposing the consideration or selection of 14724 Aviation as a site for an expansion of the Metro Rail Maintenance Facility in conjunction with the Crenshaw LAX and Green Line extension projects. Item number 8, a resolution number 7358. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Hawthorne, California, approving the Los Angeles Interagency Metropolitan Police Apprehension Crime Task Force Joint Powers Agreement, LA Impact JPA, authorizing the city's membership in LA Impact and authorizing the city manager to execute the JPA agreement.
So moved.
No, there's one more.
Is there?
Second. We pulled 9.
We pulled 9. Under the resolution 7357 regarding the city council opposing the expansion, I want the general public to know that on March 1st, there's a public hearing from 6 to 8 at 6661 Imperial Highway over by LAX. And on March 31st, the city of Inglewood is having a hearing from 6 to 8. So the people of Fusion have really wanted to say thank you to the city council, and also a lot of the residents in Liberty Acres were very happy to see that we took this position. As they said, why do they always dump this garbage on Hawthorne?
That's right.
So moved in second, please vote.
Closing, yep. Amen.
Vote reflects mayor and city council voting yes. That concludes my consent calendar, Mr. Mayor.
Public hearings, item 10.
Now is the time and the place for the public hearing on proposed ordinance number 1980, amending section 15.04.010 of the Hawthorne Municipal Code, HMC, repealing or reenacting HMC Chapter 15010 or 05, and adopting by reference the 2010 edition of the California Building Code as amended herein, the 2010 edition of the California Mechanical Code, and the 2010 edition of the California Plumbing Code, and the 2010 edition of the California Electrical Code, the 2010 edition of the California Existing Building Code, the 2010 California Residential Code, the 2010 California Green Building Standard Code, and amending HMC Chapters 15.06, repealing and reenacting HMC Chapters 15.08, 15.24, and 15.28, and enacting Chapter 15.32, 15.37, and 15.40. Planning Department's declaration publication filed. No written communications were received. Call for oral comments.
Is there anyone who wishes to speak on this topic? Seeing no one, I declare the hearing closed, so ordered. Is there a motion to approve ordinance 1980, a motion to adopt resolution number 7353?
So moved.
Second.
Can you vote separately, though, on each item?
Say ordinance number 1980.
I moved it.
Second. Discussion, please vote.
I don't think he read the title, though.
Yeah, isn't that whole?
Yes, he did.
No, he didn't read it into the record.
He read the oral communication as
But
to
it's-
what the
it's-
public hearing's about.
He
Oh,
read the
man.
whole thing.
No, okay. Ordinance number 1980, second reading.
That was the same thing.
He just read
They're
it.
similar, but a little different.
Oh, my goodness.
Go ahead, Mr. Clark.
Okay. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Hawthorne, California, amending section 150.4.010 of the Hawthorne Municipal Code, HMC, repealing and reenacting HMC Chapter 15.05 and adopting by reference the 2010 edition of the California Building Code as amended herein, the 2010 edition of the California Mechanical Code, the 2010 edition of the California Plumbing Code, the 2010 edition of the California Electrical Code, the 2010 edition of the California Existing Building Code, the 2010 California Residential Code, the 2010 California Green Building Standard Code, and amending HMC Chapters 15.06, repealing and reenacting HMC Chapters 15.08, 15.24, and 15.28, and enacting Chapter 15.32, 15.37, and 15.40 for adoption.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Could you read it again? Please vote.
Whatever you want. Now, we're voting separately, so
Right,
which
we're only-
item are you voting on right
The
now?
one you just read,
Okay, 1980. Just wanted to make sure that,
just in case they didn't understand it the second time.
right, I'll be glad to read it again if you'd like me to.
The 32-minute one.
Right?
Vote reflects mayor and city council voting yes.
Okay. Resolution number 7353.
1980, yes. Yeah. No, that was changed. No. Resolution 7353, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Hawthorne, California, making express findings and determinations that modifications to the 2010 California Building Standards Code are reasonably necessary because of the local climatic, geological, or topographical conditions for adoption.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Please vote.
Vote reflects mayor and city council voting yes.
Item 11.
Ordinance number 1982, second reading, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Hawthorne, California, amending section 5.96.070 of the Hawthorne Municipal Code relating to the requirement of having police officers on private property as a condition of the receiving a film permit for adoption.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Please vote.
Vote reflects mayor and city council voting yes. Item number 12, we've already taken a vote on.
Mr. City Manager, you have items 13, 14. So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes, I have a question on number 13. And I guess this would be to Mr. O'Brien, since he was the recipient of this. I'm reading the letter from Bartel and Associates, and in the letter from Mr. Pryor, it gives some numbers, and I'm fine with all the numbers until it gets down to total miscellaneous PERSable wages, $18 million. What exactly does that mean?
I believe that's a good question, but I believe that's total for the city, which is where the actual actuarial numbers are applied with the employer rate increase.
Why would they include the total for the city and not just that was applicable to this employee? Do you know the purpose of that?
I don't. I can find out from them if that will help you, but I couldn't answer that at this time.
Okay, it just looked kind of strange, yeah. Well, let's see, I guess on what we can vote on the condition that I get a response back from somebody what this means.
All right, so we're moved, second, and based, we're going to vote on it, that Mr. Juarez gets a response. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Please vote.
Vote reflects mayor and city council voting yes.
At this time, I'll recess the city council meeting, call back to order the Community Redevelopment Agency with all members present. Mr. Secretary, your agenda, please.
First item will be the approval of the minutes of the regular Community Redevelopment Agency meeting held February the 8th, 2010.
So moved.
Second, discussion, please vote.
Vote reflects, Mr. Vargas, are you voting? Okay, vote reflects mayor and city council members, or Community Redevelopment Agency members voting yes.
17's off. 17 was also removed. Is there anything further? If not, the agency meeting is adjourned, and I call to order the Parking Authority with all members present. Mr. Secretary, your agenda, please.
First item will be the approval of the minutes of the regular Parking Authority meeting held February 8th, 2011.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Please vote.
Vote reflects council members voting yes.
Is there anything further? If not, I'll adjourn the Parking Authority and call to order the Housing Authority with all members present. Mr. Secretary, your agenda, please.
First item will be the approval of minutes of the regular Housing Authority meeting held February the 8th, 2010.
So moved.
11.
Second.
Discussion. Please vote.
Vote reflects council members voting yes.
Is there anything further? If not, I'll adjourn the Housing Authority and call to order the Public Financing Authority with all members present.
The first item will be the approval of the minutes of the regular Public Financing Authority meeting held February 8th, 2011.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Please vote.
Vote reflects authority members voting yes.
Is there anything further? If not, I adjourn the Public Finance Authority and call to order the City Council meeting with all members present. Now is the time for elected officials' reports, recommendations, appointments, reappointments, removals, commission, committees, and boards. And we'll start with our City Treasurer, Terry Lubinek.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to first thank Angie and Ms. Diaz for the Locks of Love. It was a great program, and I hope it's continued for generations to come. It'll help so many people. And Evelyn wasn't here right when we did the presentation, but she's a strong person who really cares about what she did, and she is very proud of what everybody brought to the table and did for her and her mother. So I know deep down in her heart, she says thank you to everybody, and that she's ready to go to continue this event year after year. So congratulations to her. Again, I want to thank Alex. And that day also, they had the Relay for Life luncheon. It was great to be there and hear people about their cancer situation. Another great program. We have a lot of people in needs of many things, and we have many people that showed up to support that program. And Mayor, that's all I have. Thank you.
City Clerk?
Yes,
Norb?
yes, Arnie from Public Works gave us these items last meeting. We had several members of the community come forward about the quality of water, and anyone that's here present can pick up one of these from the California Water Service. It's a quality water report, and anyone that's out there in the public that wants to come to my office, the city clerk's office, can pick one of these up, so that the public was wondering about the quality of water in Hawthorne. A couple other items. The Teen Center is hosting Cassie prep classes, and I just happen to be, my day job is teaching Cassie math classes, and I volunteered to conduct some of the classes over there next Thursday for any high school student who has not passed the exit exam. Can come over to the Teen Center and get extra tutoring. They need it to pass to graduate, and my regular job is to get seniors to pass so they can graduate from their high schools. The last item, the National Night Out, is coming up August the 2nd. I got information on that so the homeowners associations can start planning on having a National Night Out event this summer. Thank you.
Councilmember Lambert?
Thank you, Mayor. First, I wanted to say thanks to the police department for their training exercise that they put in their time and energy, and this was at the local park in Holly Glen, Dana Middle School. Thank you, Chief, and the rest of you. Good job. Good job. And also, I want to thank Jan Vogel. I don't know. I didn't see him tonight. He's not here.
No, he's not here
but
tonight.
he did a great Black History Week celebration at the Teen Center, and it was packed. And I couldn't stay for the whole thing, but I did stay for an awful lot of the young people singing, and I was telling one of my colleagues that their expression of how they sing is different than you would expect. Say the salute to the flag, or singing the song to the flag. It's different, and it was beautiful. It was just wonderful. So I wanted to thank Jan Vogel. It was a packed house, and that, of course, was, again, for Black History Week. Also, Mr. City Manager, I would like for you to consider extending the time for the discussion of CDBG monies and renew that list that you provided. Since you're reasonably new this year on this sort of thing, our past history was that the decision was made among the five of us, not anybody else. And I don't know who made these decisions, but I would like you to recontact every one of those folks and see if they got missed somehow, they didn't get to respond. And I believe I asked you on the telephone, how much money are we talking about for CDBG funds? I still don't know that answer yet. You were going to find out how much there was available. And I guess I covered it all. Chief, that program of yours was fantastic. Thank you again. Thank you, ma'am. Outstanding. Will you look into that?
May I respond to that? I just
Yeah,
found
please.
out from Greg, we have about $2.9 million, $2 million in the CDBG funds, and
Okay.
approximately $900,000 in home funds. However, we've been not told, but the we're a little bit worried that they're gonna, that number might go down also, like everything else, yes.
Oh, well, you know, all of us would, I think, you know, as past participation in this, we would like to participate in this, because I don't know who said, yes, you can have it, no, you can't. I mean, who provided that information? It's generally, in the past, there's always been.
Don't they
the
send
city
out a
council.
letter?
Well, the city council used to always participate and agree on whether we wanted to.
We do.
Not this one.
We do. We do.
Okay, well, it's very sparse, and I'd like to have them
We'll recontact the people to verify that they are not interested or are interested and assist them in submitting an application. Yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
Phone calls, and because I can't believe some of them are not even on here, like the BHS is not on.
I thought the BHS was on there, but
So why don't we just recirculate the
I
letters?
will do that. I will be happy to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a good.
Thank you,
number.
Greg. I know Greg has made every effort to notify those agencies, those nonprofit organizations, and those alike, to let them know that the application process is available.
Yeah.
Greg, did you want to make a comment on?
Yes, if I can. The list that you have are the ones who were invited to solicit, they were solicited applications this year. So everyone on that list received an invitation to make an application.
I understood that.
Yeah, and the list is no smaller than last year.
Well.
But I'm happy to add.
Drag out my old ones that I have. The list
Oh,
is pretty
absolutely.
plentiful.
The more the better. If you have any you want to add, please let me know. It's not too late.
One of them, as I just mentioned, is BHS. I
Yeah,
don't see them on there.
They received
And,
an application already.
And
Yes.
I'm shocked that, where is it? Pastor Kukas is Teen Challenge.
Yeah, he received an application or an invitation to make an application.
You know, I really think you better reconnect, because I know they're desperate for
Yeah.
keeping that home open that they do for children on drugs and whatever else, their behavior, you know. So
I sent the letters out on Monday of this week, so everybody should be making their inquiries
we need to
soon.
get back on the phone with these people. I don't want them to miss out on possible monies that they could have to help them out. Okay? And that's it. Thank you very much. God bless you all.
Councilmember English?
Make mention of the event again, Locks of Love Foundation, and the great efforts on everyone's part. And it was a very successful event with over 30 people participating and lots of folks donating their hair. And so I just want to thank everyone again, and the city and its departments, for how they stepped up to the plate and participated as well through their assistance. I don't believe this could have happened, so thank you so much to that. I also would like to make mention, I believe coming up next week, our own Councilmember Juarez will be recognized with West Basin Water Board for his efforts in Water Reliability 2020. And that was something I believe that we passed through a resolution with the city in partnership to hopefully try and provide that by that time. So thank you to that, and congratulations, Danny. I want to also just make mention, happy President's Day to everyone, and also in recognition of Black History Month, I want to continue making those recognitions where they're due. Also want to thank a lot of the students that were here today from USC journalism classes. So if you see the students in the audience, those are students that are sent out to do internship to learn more about the City Council and what they're doing. So thank you to those students that came out. That was very important to them in writing their reports, which I'm sure most of us have been contacted